How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL video, and today we're going to be looking at our Game Week 8 edition of Buy, Hold, and Sell. If you're not familiar with how the series works, we basically recommend two players who are doing well or maybe have some good fixtures coming up, and that we think that you should buy for this coming Game Week and the Game Weeks to come up after the Game Week of this video. Players that you should hang on to that may have blanked this Game Week or may be coming back from injury after a short layoff, which we would recommend to hold, and players that we think that you should get rid of this Game Week as they are either injured, haven't been doing well, or they have a bad run of fixtures coming up. If you haven't done so already, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. And leave a comment down below as to which players you're looking on buying, holding, or selling this Game Week. Also give us a follow over on Twitter and Twitch. It's PilotFlame226 on those platforms. Twitter is where we do lineup updates, post all the content that we post here on YouTube, as well as when we go live over on Twitch, which we'll be doing another stream on Twitch this week, Thursday, 7 p.m. EST for our deadline stream. I have to do it the day before because I'm not home in time for the Game Week deadline, as it is on a Friday this week, as it has been for the last couple of weeks, but we will go back to normal when it starts back up on Saturdays. The games are being reverted back to Saturdays from Game Week 9 onwards. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So these are the players that we chose in Game Week 7 to buy, hold, and sell. We were very successful on our buys and sells, but our holds didn't work out quite well at all. So we recommended to buy Chilwell and Kilman, both getting clean sheets for their respective clubs, Chelsea and Wolves. Our sells, Maupay wasn't in the squad entirely. He got dropped completely by Graham Potter. And Trent Alexander-Arnold with another 2-pointer. Very disappointing from him as well. Our holds, however, weren't great at all. Mitchell wasn't in the squad either due to his injury that he sustained in the previous game week that kept him out of this Game Week 7. And James Rodriguez was a late omission from the lineup for Carlo Ancelotti. He had a bit of a knock, kind of in the previous game, in Game Week 6, and they didn't have any subs left, so he kind of had to stay on the pitch. And Ancelotti's he's a smart manager. He knows that if we're gonna go with a player that is super important and integral to our team, we need to protect that player. So he rested him versus the in the Newcastle game in Game Week 7, hoping that they could get a point or win the game. They didn't, unfortunately, and missed his creativity. But to protect him long term, and especially with Manchester United as their next fixture, which is a big fixture for them to bounce back after 2 losses on the bounce, they're definitely going to need him to be involved. So a bit unfortunate there. I personally kept him because he does have a lot of value currently from when I bought him. I bought him at 7.5 million, and I believe his height was 7.9 or 8 million, and he's still around that now, even with a price drop when he was being told that he was going to be benched to us in the press conferences. But yeah, we did overall quite good, pretty successful, especially for the buys and sells. People would have been pretty happy about that. The holds, most people would have known going into the game week by the time the news came out that Mitchell and Rodriguez were going to be out. But hopefully we can do even better this week. So let's see who we have on the list this week. So the first player that we have on our list this game week is Timo Werner. He currently sits at 9.3 million, 36 points, 3 goals, 2 assists, 21.3% ownership, averaging just over 5 points per game, and has a fantastic fixture versus Sheffield United at home. And he got 6 points in the previous game week, getting himself a goal, and he seems to be finding his shooting boots quite easily now. And I think that him just kind of drifting in off the left and finding his getting his feet wet, and then kind of gelling into the team now that he's had a few weeks with the players, whether it be in Europe or also in the Premier League. He's been doing quite well for himself, and I think that Timo Werner is the type of player that will go on hot streaks, and when he's hot, he is on fire. Like in the Bundesliga, he will score, several back-to-back braces and hat-tricks and get bunches of assists and that sort of stuff when he played for RB Leipzig. And I think that Tammy Abraham playing as the focal point in the forward line now that Christian Pulisic is back injured again, I think we might see the best of Timo Werner, and he could be quite effective there. But also, I think he could be quite effective in the forward line as well. We'll have to see kind of where he's positioned. I think for this game week, he's going to be out on the left with either Tammy Abraham or Giroud through the middle in like a similar system to how they played versus Burnley. And Sheffield United have conceded quite a few goals and chances from their right hand side. They're just not very good defensively from that side. And I think if you own Chilwell or Werner, they're going to be looking quite dangerous for Sheffield United this week. And I've even put Werner in my captaincy video because I think he's going to be quite explosive versus Sheffield United, who just aren't the same team as they were last season. And the other player that we have on our buy list is Callum Wilson. He has 53 points this season with 6 goals, 2 assists, only 14% ownership, and averages just over 7.5 points per game. He has a pretty good fixture versus Southampton away in this coming game week and scored 12 points, getting himself 2 goals as he is on penalties, the first one being a penalty in the last game week. And he's only 6.5 million and he seems to be quite good, and people are overlooking him, I think, myself included. He has a very good run of fixtures going up until and including the Christmas period, with just a couple of fixtures that aren't great overall, with City at the I think they play them on Boxing Day, and they have Chelsea in game week 9 after the international break. But apart from that, he can definitely score against all the rest of those teams and has been showing to do quite easily, getting an assist from Fraser for his second goal in their game versus Everton, who they haven't been great defensively. Obviously having Digne out, they've had their problems at right back as well, and they substituted their goalkeeper for this game week as well, Jordan Pickford being dropped to the bench. And I think that Callum Wilson could definitely score versus Southampton, who have shown that they can have lapses in concentration. I mean, they were up 4-0 very comfortably versus Aston Villa, and then almost let them back in the game, giving them three pretty cheap goals, as it were, to allow them to get back into and make the scoreline somewhat respectable. But I think Callum Wilson is definitely going on the radar. I know some people do have him, and I think it's a great buy for this game week. I can definitely see him scoring versus a Southampton defense that has conceded quite a few this season, and I wouldn't put him past him to do the same as all the other teams that have scored versus Southampton this season have done. My first hold for the week is Phil Foden, 6.6 million in the midfield slot, 26 points, 2 goals, 1 assist, 8.6% ownership, average of 4.3 points per game. He has Liverpool at home next, which is on paper a tougher fixture, and only scored 1 point after coming on as a sub for a very short stint in game week 7. Now, Phil Foden is one of these players. He's very cheaply owned, but you have to kind of take it as it is on face value. He's a cheap mid-priced midfielder. He's not going to start every game week because he does play for Manchester City. However, he will start the majority of games and he will definitely do damage. Is he someone that I'm going to be bringing in this week? No. But is he someone that I potentially could be looking from game week 10 onwards, or even against Spurs because they are quite weak defensively? Yes, he is going to be quite good going forward. He is a player that can play in a multitude of positions. So if we start to see injuries in those fields, we'll see Foden picking up more and more game time. Another player to also kind of look out, I kind of was picking between the two, but since Foden has been more involved in the team, is Ferran Torres as well. He's another one who, again, scored tonight in the Champions League and is doing quite well for himself in that false 9 role. But with Jesus being back now, making a substitute appearance could change things up, which could make Foden even more crucial because he's the only real player, apart from the likes of Gundogan, who can play that other, like, attacking number 8 midfield role in the midfield 3, where, you kind of want a left footer on that side. De Bruyne playing the right-footed center mid, and then Foden being the left-footed center mid would be perfect because David Silva has alleviated that position and not really been replaced. Foden is very good on the half turn, very good at playing balls in behind. His goal versus West Ham showed how he can just pop up in and around the box like David Silva used to do, and I think he could definitely provide great value there. So if you do have him, hang on to him. He will come good and he will have a string of games where he will definitely score some pretty nice goals for you. The next player that I think you should hang on to if you currently have him is Marcus Rashford. Now, a lot of people brought him in thinking that he would potentially do quite well versus Arsenal. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, only getting 2 points. He currently sits at 9.6 million, having gone up in price. 30 points overall, 2 goals, 2 assists, 9% ownership, or just above that. 5 points per game on average, and has Everton away next, whose defense isn't as good as their attack is, which means that Marcus Rashford could definitely find form. And with United being much better away from home, just on average, just at home, United just seem to have lost the ability to play at all. And I guess when they're away from home, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can set them up in such a way to where it's like they're like the underdog and going to be the one that's going to be counterattacking, which falls right into Rashford's hands. And I think he's kind of missed Martial, who will be coming straight back into the team, assuming he is fit for the game against Everton on the weekend. And I think that Rashford and Bruno Fernandes is another one that if you've held on to him for this entire time, I would say keep hanging on to him, because after the Everton game as well, which I still think is not a bad fixture on paper for attacking returns, they have West Brom, who are probably going to be measured up by Spurs this coming game week, and United have pretty decent fixtures going forward from there with the Manchester derby in and around, I believe it's like game week 11 or something like that, but they have some good fixtures around it where they can definitely score some points. So if you have Manchester United assets, I would say stay patient with them, especially until you see what they do versus West Brom, and then you can make your judgment from there. And the first player on our sell list is Raul Jimenez. He currently sits at 8.5 million in the forward line. 35 points, 4 goals, no assists. Just over 18% ownership. Is ticking along with an average of 5 points per game, with Leicester away as his next fixture, and had a blank in game week 7, only getting 2 points for himself. Now, I think that it's a bit of a tricky one for Wolves, because I've brought in Kilman personally as kind of a rotational defender between him, Lamptey, and Ayling, and I'm going to pick and choose which one I want to play based on the fixture. But I think for attacking returns, Crystal Palace are a team that have shown to be, good defensively, but have had their weak points. Wolves managed to get a couple in the first half and then didn't really do too much in the second half overall. Jimenez not scoring in that game was a bit of a surprise to me, but I think that going forward, it's going to be a lot tougher for them to score goals. Going up until the Christmas period, they only actually have 3 games with an FDR rating of 3 or lower, and only 2 of those with an FDR rating of 2. And they play a lot of the tough teams, one of them being Leicester, who seems to be on fire as of recently. And they were able to soak up all the pressure that Leeds were putting forward and only conceded just the 1 goal versus them in a 4-1 victory. They've already beaten City this season 5-2. And I think that they can definitely do some damage versus Wolves if they're in form, with the likes of Maddison being able to pick them apart. And I think that Jimenez is going to be hard-pressed to be able to break their back line and their congestion in the midfield. He may have to pull something out of his hat, which he technically can often do, but I just feel that it's just not worth keeping him, and I would go to somebody, maybe go up to Werner, or maybe go down to the likes of Calvert-Lewin if you don't already have him. Maybe go all the way down to Callum Wilson or somebody like that, or Antonio if he's fit, who's another player that I forgot to also mention, mainly due to the fact that he plays Fulham, but he could be injured for that game. But again, these sorts of players should be in your thinking, and I think Jimenez is definitely a sell for me this game week. Now, the other sell for me this game week is actually a goalkeeper, which is not something I often do, but it's Matt Ryan of Brighton. He currently sits at 4.5 million, 11 points this season, which is an average of 1.6 points per game. Only 1 clean sheet. He's just under 15% owned. He has a very good fixture on paper versus Burnley at home next week, but he wasn't in the squad last week, which is a bit of a weird one. I was considering Ryan from the start of the season, but Brighton have shown that they concede 1, maybe 2 shots, or big chances a game, or even just general chances a game, and then they concede. So something's going on in the dressing room, and Graham Potter has, he didn't have Ryan in the squad, he didn't have Mopé in the squad. Something's going on there where things are just a bit all over the shop, and they put in their backup goalkeeper to play instead of him. So if you do have him, I'd be looking to the likes of potentially McCarthy or even Martinez. I would even say Patricio is, typically a very good goalkeeper. However, his fixtures aren't great. You can go for maybe one of the big 6 goalkeepers. So Schmeichel's fixtures from game week 10 to around game week 12 or 13 are pretty good as well. He could be an option. And, there are things that you can basically kind of work around this goalkeeper slot, because it is a slot that you kind of want to have someone playing game in, game out. And if you have to make a goalkeeper transfer, I would suggest maybe that it's on a wild card and make it so that, you know, you have a situation where you don't really have anything to do with your team this week. And a lot of people, you can potentially address this over the international break. I would say sell him because I wouldn't risk having another, you know, kind of just zero in my goalkeeper slot just because the coach decided to not pick him. And most people have non-playing goalkeepers on their bench anyway. If you are like one of those players that had Ryan and McCarthy, then you should be okay for the time being. But I would say address this sooner rather than later. It's a sell for me this game week. And that's going to do it for the Game Week 8 edition of Buy, Hold, and Sell. Make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. It greatly helps us out. And make sure to turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content and posts as soon as they are readily available. Also, make sure to leave a comment down below as to which players that you're going to be buy, holding, or selling this game week. And give us a follow over on Twitter and Twitch so you can get all the updates, especially on Twitter for lineups as well as videos. It's PilotFlame226 on those platforms. And make sure to drop by the deadline stream over on Twitch this Thursday, 7 p.m. EST. So at the time of recording, that is 2 days from now. That's going to be on the 5th of November. So make sure to drop by and relay your thoughts in the chat. I have to do it the day before just because I won't be home in time to do a deadline stream before the deadline, as the first kickoff is going to be on Friday. I believe it's at 1:30 my time, which is 4 hours behind the UK kickoff, which is 5:30. I'm pretty sure that's what time the first kickoff is. If not, it's the 8 o'clock UK kickoff time, as per normal. And then it's going to be back to normal Saturday as the first kickoff in Game Week 9. So we'll revert back to doing the deadline streams in you know, first thing in the morning, my time, so that you guys can have the, you know, live reaction, and a lot more people are typically involved then, because that's when people do their tinkering and their last minute changes, and it's usually a lot more hectic then, which is what FPL is all about, the thrill, the rush of getting that last minute transfer for someone to have a massive haul for that game week. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care.